Hello everybody, I am the Gamer Musician, and today I'm going to be doing an analysis of the new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer from the Switch presentation. Now, this is my first analysis. I am editing like this, and I'm going to be doing this unscripted in one take. So I really hope this is useful to all the rest of you. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. Okay, so obviously it starts off with a cut of the ocean. There's not honestly a lot I can talk about other than just, how amazing this really looks. You can see the sun glistening and it's... But once we reach here, you can see that a lot has changed. Oh, not a lot changed, but a lot is new. First off, there's the palm trees and all that cliff area on the side, which, while I'm not certain, it could possibly be similar to the footage we have from the E3 trailer, where we saw a smaller, enclosed lake with some palm trees and all that kind of stuff. Also, it's not exactly the most clear, but it looks like there is a cave area towards the side there underneath the mountain. Later on in the trailer, it'll show us Zora's Domain, but that could be an entrance into Zora's Domain. Yeah, which could be a really interesting new development. They've already shown us Zora's Domain over here. Next, down towards the bottom corner, you can see what appears to be a shrine. Now, from back here, it shows it a bit clearer. You can kind of see the orange and make out the shape of it, which appears to be what can only really be a shrine. In the background, you can see Death Mountain and some clouds, and there's a bird up there. Yeah, it's kind of just interesting and cool to see that they've, programmed in all the birds and everything like that. Here we are, so we have a different shot showing the ocean. It appears to be a different area, though, because we cannot actually see any traces of the prior palm trees or anything like that out here. Okay, so a couple of things we can see here. Obviously, there's some waterfalls and a small little lake in the middle there with some rocks. The grass area. One thing I would like to draw your attention to is down in the bottom corner. You can see a little, what appears to be a quarter circle of stones. Now, I don't know for certain, but I know that in prior Zelda games, having a circle created out of stones has meant something before. And here we can see we are at a sunset. This could be in a similar area, what with all the waterfalls and everything like that. But we don't really know. And you can kind of see, more trees. The water is glowing orange from the sunset. It's so beautiful. Here we are, we've got some stones. You can kind of see over there we've got some seals. It is interesting to see the number of different animals we've got in this game. We've also got a number of stone structures around. Like there's that one there towards the right side, surrounded by palm trees. And there's another one closer to the left side, just behind the rocks. So we don't know what they are yet. They could just be stones, but judging by their shapes, they don't really look natural. Particularly that one on the left. It looks more like a ruin of some kind, so who really knows? Also up in the background you can see a Tower of Resurrection, I think they're called. And here we got a Arctic Fox. Perhaps it's like Alola Ninetales. No, but as I was saying before, I'm really excited to see all the different, animals in this game. And up the back there, we've got a couple of interesting things to notice. First off, the mountain. It's kind of an interesting design for a mountain. It's, goes up and there's almost like little circles of it gouged out. There's a couple of them around it, and it's quite interesting. And I wonder what could have happened. Could this have been an area which might have been struck by, the fireballs shot out by Calamity Ganon? As I have said a lot, we don't really know yet, but it's interesting thing to notice. Also, you can see on the top of one of the smaller peaks to the left, there is that singular lone tree there. So perhaps there might be some kind of treasure or something like that around there. And here you can see we've got a vast area. There's a lot of trees, but there are some interesting things to note still. First off, you can kind of see Death Mountain on the side, which has lava coming out. That's not really new, but it is interesting to note because Death Mountain usually is erupting when there's some form of an issue with it. Also, if you look at that small patch of actual plain clear grass, which is just to the left of the center of the screen, you can see some kind of little black line or some kind of shadow there. So I wonder what that could be. There's not really anything I can actually gather from that. It's just a single little line, but it looks kind of out of place there. So it could be anything. It could be a shadow from something flying, or it could be a hole to go down. Okay, and then it fades in, and you can see we're in the forest, and there is a number of Koroks here. And then it will fade in to the new Master Sword. And you can see, if this shot isn't just anything. I'm not going to go on yet. You can see not only have we got Koroks still flying around. There's 1, 2, 3 flying, and then there's, from what it looks like, a few more on the ground. But if you look up at that big tree in the middle there, to be honest, it can only really be the Deku Tree. You can kind of make out the shape of its mouth and kind of eyes and all that kind of stuff, which is generally accepted to be part of the Deku Tree. And now we know that in prior games in the Downfall timeline, the Master Sword has been placed in the Lost Woods. So it'll be interesting to see whether in this game the Kokiri Forest has actually been overtaken by the Lost Woods. I know in Ocarina of Time, in the adult timeline, we could kind of see that it was starting to reach that point. There were monsters starting to appear in Kokiri Forest and all that good stuff like that. All that bad stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if perhaps Kokiri Forest has actually become a part of the Lost Woods in Breath of the Wild. Anyway, it flashes to white, and now we can see what I believe they're calling the Master Sword of Resurrection. You can kind of see it's glowing and all that. And to be honest, I can only really imagine that they're calling it the Master Sword of Resurrection because this happens after he resurrects, which is quite exciting, because I am one of those people that is hoping for and hyped for the possibility of multiple timelines. Anyway, then it goes across a grassy plain. You can kind of see a few horses around, and by a few, I mean a lot. You've got 2 on the bottom at the left, and then 3 more up the top. What appears to be 2 more towards the right. And now it fades in here onto Link. Now, yeah, to be honest, there's not a lot which is different or new about Link, really. He's got the same boots. He's just standing there. Yeah, but that's, he's got his sword, bow, shield, arrows. Okay, that's all good. Now, yeah, if we continue to zoom in a bit though, yeah, what I thought was horses down the bottom, they are indeed horses. And up the top there, you can kind of see we have, right in the center is Hyrule Castle, and a bit to the left of that is the flying structure, I guess you could call it. A lot of people assume now, since the Game Awards, that could be the ship we saw Falco flying to. Though that is not necessarily confirmed yet, it is a very good guess. And that goes back onto Link. And you can kind of see Link there. Yep, still the same. Got the flying statue. Got Hyrule Castle with the pink Ganon force, I guess you'd call it, flowing around it. And you can kind of see also, like, towards the top area of the tower, like between what is now directly on the far right of the screen, you can kind of see stuff flowing out of it. So that's quite interesting to notice, and we don't really know what that is. Probably still something keeping Ganon sealed. Now back here quickly, you can see a Tower of Resurrection in the middle, as well as a big crater towards the bottom of the screen. I don't know what that crater is, but it is quite interesting to think about, and who knows, really. Okay, so, a shot of Link running, nothing really new, and Link climbing, which appears really similar to the shot we had from the original Breath of the Wild trailers. Though you can kind of see it's later in the afternoon, I guess you'd say. You can see the sun starting to set. You've got, the orange skies, and some of the water is reflecting orange, which is really cool, to be honest. And also in the background, you can kind of see what appears to be possibly a Tower of Resurrection right on the mountain there, as well as Death Mountain to the left of that. Okay, so yeah, he's climbed up. Yeah, we've got a really large cavern here. However, there's also a big wooden bridge. We don't really know what the wooden bridge... Well, the wooden bridge is obviously there to allow travelers to cross, but so far we don't quite know who built it yet. So that'll be something interesting to see. Or is it just something that was just always there? Who knows? Anyway, it fades over this direction, and I'm going to stop it there. And you can kind of see in the background there's a really interesting spiral. kind of design. You can kind of see right there in between the two towers in the background there. You can see a big spiral created by what appears to be a landmass. And yeah, we don't really know what that is yet, but it actually is a really interesting design. So it'll be interesting to see what, perhaps there's something, some kind of treasure or something like that in the center. Okay, so yep, we're in the snow. And here we are. Link is on a horse. This horse doesn't really look new. It just kind of looks like a brown horse, not like a pony or anything. And we have the first bit of spoken dialogue we've seen that wasn't from that woman, who we now know to be Zelda. What it says, the history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages. So this is a really interesting line. I'm hoping to try and do a theory on all the voice acting, or all the new voice lines we've gotten. So, I'm not going to go too in-depth in it, but, you know, talking about the histories between the royal family and the Ganon is something that, to me, appears to be something that could happen perhaps in the child timeline or the downfall timeline. Which, you know, the child timeline had the Gerudo-Hylia war after Link came back and warned the family. Whereas, of course, the royal family, or, you know, in the downfall timeline, we've had the Ganon destroying Hyrule. And while the royal family did eventually return, you know, Ganon was often there to kidnap and kill them. So, who knows? Anyway, interestingly, as they say that, it comes to a shot of Hylia with the Loftwing statue the statue of Hylia in the Temple of Time on the Great Plateau, with the Loftwing symbol in front. I feel like this is a really interesting point, because I feel like the actual stories of Hylia and, you know, Ganon's pre-incarnation demise was mostly obviously talked about in Skyward Sword. So perhaps this could be talking about a possible return of Hylia, Hylia, I don't know depending on how you pronounce it, but it's interesting to see this because obviously Hylia has not... What am I saying? Hylia is something Skyward Sword related, but also the pre-incarnation of the royal family. So, who knows? Perhaps this game could be including some form of demise and Hylia. Here we've got a couple of destroyed guardians. You can see two of them over there. And I'm not sure if that's a shadow from the sky or an animal, but if you look over towards what is now the right side of the screen, you can kind of see a little thing running across between the edge of the screen and the tree there. So that could be a small, like, animal. We don't quite know what it is. It could be just a shadow from something in the sky. Either way, here we are. We have a ruin. And Link is riding on that same horse we saw him on a couple minutes ago. Yep. Okay, out here we've got a big wide-angle shot. Down in the bottom left corner, we can kind of see a ruin of something. While in the center, we have a shrine. And of course, over on the right side, if you hadn't realized, we have the Resurrection Tower. Now you can actually, looking a bit closer, you can kind of see ruins all across this actual screenshot. I don't know if it's the ruins of a town or a castle or a village or something, but there is ruins all across this higher section of the plane. Okay, now just cuts to some shots of some animals fleeing and looking around confused. You can see up the top of the log there, you've got a little, birds are flying away. And don't ask me to tell you what type of birds these are. They're green and gold. Perhaps they're a Mega Man skin from Super Smash Bros. You can see at the top of the log, there's the animal running away. And a resurrection tower bursts from the ground. And it cuts now to the castle. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this first section of the trailer, not a lot of it is that new. It's just a lot of interesting new, angles of stuff. Here we've got the, this is some footage we actually saw at E3. It's got, you can see Link at the top of the Resurrection Tower looking out at the Hyrule Castle. And here we are. We've got a couple of enemies here. At the front there is a Bokoblin. And right there we've got some, that's a Lizalfos. Speaking of, I've done a theory on the Lizalfos. Link is in the description, because you should watch it. I was pretty proud of that one. And up here, we've got, that pig monster. I believe it's a Moblin. I'm pretty sure that was the Moblin. Okay, cool, yep. And in the background, there's another creature, which is probably a Bokoblin. Yep. And there's a Guardian, being all evil and stuff. And now, I do not know what that is, but if you actually look, in the background there, you can see a little, glowing orange thing. I don't know if that's a torch. It appears like it could be a torch, actually, so who knows. And actually, if you look at this, wooden structure to the side, you can kind of see a circle with wooden bars coming out of it, which generally is something you can turn. So I don't know if you'll be able to actually turn cranks or wheels, which is what this appears to be. So perhaps this wooden structure with some cloth over the top is able to be moved or changed. And here we've got Steptalis, which is, to be honest, not really doing anything new. I've made a full theory on Steptalis before. Link's also in the description, so I already recognize his attack patterns very well. And here we are. This is something I find very interesting. Link is riding on what appears to be some kind of dog, horse, hippo, snow creature hybrid. He's holding onto the end and jet skiing along on what I can only imagine to be his shield. You can see there's a creature in the back which looks to be some form of crocodile monster. A very large creature which, to be honest, I can't see it doing anything less than full damage. And Link's using his, what I believe to be the Magnesis rune? Oh, the one that calls things out of the ground. So that's interesting. What I found interesting about this particular shot, though, is over on the side there. You can see it's kind of pink and purple, which, while we don't necessarily know what that is, I believe it's quite likely to be some form of destruction caused by Ganon. That pink color is generally associated with Ganon in this game, from what we've seen so far, so it's quite likely that that is actually a issue from Ganon. Also, if you kind of notice in the background there, on top of the rock to the right, you can kind of see some form of scorpion. It appears to be a scorpion. So perhaps, perhaps it could actually be a Skulltula. So perhaps this could actually signify the return of Skulltulas, or perhaps some form of gold Skulltula quest, which is always quite a lot of fun. And here we have a new color scheme for the Bokoblin. From what I remember from the Game Awards footage, we did not actually see a pink and black Lizalfos. Nor, to the best of my knowledge, did we see a fire-breathing one. For the majority of the Lizalfos in that trailer were mostly using electric-based attacks. So perhaps we'll be seeing different elemental styles of Lizalfos, which will be a very interesting new look at the Lizalfos. And I don't know where this is, but I can only imagine it to be some form of fire temple. We have a symbol on the stones to the left. I don't quite recognize that symbol, and I can't really make it out properly, but it appears to be some form of possibly the Goron symbol, which would make sense with the fire cavern. I'll have to have another look at it properly and see if I can try and come up with a theory about it. Okay, next up we've got this little fella, who is, from what I remember, the creature we saw from the original Breath of the Wild for Switch footage, from the actual Switch reveal trailer. He's wearing some form of a fundoshi with, the Cyclops. He still appears to be some form of a Moblin, though. He's got his unicorn horn with his giant glowing blue eye. Next up, we have this man here, who, from what you can see quite clearly from this particular frame, he has a Sheikah eye on his head, but it is upside down. Now, we don't really know what this could mean. Perhaps this could have something to do with the imprisoning war, or the Sheikah war, which happened prior, which as far as I know happened prior to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, where a lot of the Sheikah, defected. Or to the best of my knowledge, I don't know if this ever got confirmed, but as far as I remember from a lot of the theories, the Sheikah defected, or some of them did, and perhaps this upside down crying tear symbol could have something to do with that. I mean, that's just a guess, not even a theory, but either way, we have a Deadpool looking man with an upside down Sheikah tablet, a Sheikah eye on his face. And one other thing to note is this man's sword. I'm not sure if it's just because of the glowing, and it could just be some form of katana, but from what I see, it almost appears to be gilded. Kind of like, or the Helix sword, but I don't know if that's just because... Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you can kind of see it's like a weird shape with, it made up, part of it by redoing it with a Helix design, or perhaps aura. We don't quite know yet, but either way, it's really interesting. He also has spikes in his boots and all kinds of stuff like that. Plus, there is a symbol on the back on the red fabric. So perhaps this could be some form of evil team or evil enemy group. Perhaps some form of religious cult. You can see he's got, the mask and the tusks on his face, as well as horns, spikes is a better word, on his shoes. So, who knows what this group could be. Link and him have a fight, and you can see him coming back, and yeah, it kind of holds on to all of it. You can kind of see that sword is almost a Helix design. So that's a really interesting way of doing things. Here we've got Link. He held onto something with the psychokinesis, forgot what it's called, the rune, and he's moving the stone over, killing some bokoblins, whatever. And here we have a full camp of Lizalfos. Now down the bottom there, we have some other darker blue ones, or purple perhaps, which appear to be shooting water. So perhaps my theory about the elemental Lizalfos could be accurate. Over on the side there, we've seen the green ones, which are nothing new. We saw them in the Game Awards trailer, and then he blew up a bunch of stuff. Everything explodes, because there's some explosive barrels there, because the Lizalfos are stupid. Now, here we have a giant, pumpkin, perhaps? Now, I'm assuming this is some form of entrance to a shrine, or perhaps something new, but this is actually colored orange, so who quite knows? The Sheikah stuff seems to be generally colored orange or blue, so it looks like this is, beyond even the eye, it appears to still be under the control of the Sheikah, unlike this stuff, which is all pink and Ganon based. You can kind of see up there, that image of Ganon, he looks a lot more similar to his original designs now than he did from some of his earlier Breath of the Wild footage. You can kind of see him standing there with the bright glowing yellow eyes. There's a better shot of him later, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. You can see pink stuff going around. And then there's this right here. He's got those glowing yellow eyes, which is kind of scary almost. It's kind of fun. He's got the darkness and the pink and the glowing and the death. So yep. And then Link jumps off with his thing. And here we've got a town. Now, unlike before where we kind of didn't really get to see too much of any towns, this time we can see there is a lot to it. First off, there's a symbol on the far right house's banner, which is also, to the best of my knowledge, a new symbol. It's kind of similar to the Zora symbol, though not quite the same. Also, on the even further to the right banner, there is a symbol of a broken bottle, perhaps, or a broom. I'm assuming it's a broken bottle, because right next to it, you can see 3 tubes. One green, one blue, one red. So perhaps this is where you'll be able to refill some potions. I know potions have played a part in prior games. I've forgotten which one did which. I know there was health and magic. So, it appears that perhaps the magic bar might be making some form of a return too. Yep. And also, one other amazing new thing is you can see down the bottom, you can see a number of people walking around. Like, there's a couple of people down there, some people on horses, a man over there walking, and there's windmills everywhere. And up the top there, one thing that I don't know if anyone else might have noticed, but that house at the top there is a house we've seen before. That house at the top there is the house we saw from the original Breath of the Wild, for Wii U trailer, back at E3. If you look at, as far as I remember, it was 12 seconds into the trailer. That is the house we saw at the top of a hill, which it appears to still be here. So now we can start to build up a slide map. We've got this section here on the other side of that almost mountain with that house at the top. You can see on the other side of it, there is almost a cliff down with another lake. I'm not going to go into it fully, but I theorized that perhaps that lake could be Lake Hylia, and I'm just going to leave that video link in the description. I don't know whether it really still holds up, especially with seeing a town on the other side, but hey, have a look at it if you want to. Next up, we've got this other town here, which, as much as I really want to say we've seen this before in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Explorers of Time, Darkness, and Sky, it appears to be some form of desert town. So probably something Gerudo related. I'm assuming it's something Gerudo related. You can kind of, even ignoring the desert around, just the general style of the area appears to be really Arabic based. You can kind of see all kinds of things here. You can see, obviously, the waterfall rock is the kind of thing that would definitely be something you would build your town around in the middle of a desert, because water is something required. It's really interesting. It's like, if it is a desert town, it would make a lot of sense as well because of all the water flowing. It's the kind of thing where if you have a town in a desert, the one thing you would be proud of and show off is the fact that you have water everywhere. Also, one other thing there, I don't know if it's part of the rocks or it's its own creature, but if you look on the second highest rock in the 3-rock formation there, you can kind of see what appears to be some form of an creature. You can kind of see, if I do this here, you can kind of see its leg move. So, who knows, perhaps that's some form of guardian of the village. Perhaps it's a human too, or Goron, we don't really know yet. But also, if you look down the bottom, you can see people walking as well. So it's kind of, this game appears like it's going to have a lot of people bustling around through all the towns, which is something I'm excited for. I'm so excited to see it. Now we see a desolate, destroyed wasteland, probably leading its way up to Castletown, or perhaps Kakariko Village even, what with Death Mountain right behind. And here we are, we've got guardians walking around. One thing I find really interesting though is that guardian does not appear to be pink. Perhaps it's just because of the shot, but I don't see any pink on that guardian. And generally the guardians that have been corrupted by Ganon have turned pink, while the Sheikah ones, like the ones in the shrines and stuff, are still blue. So, it's something to think about. I don't know, perhaps it's just the angle or the shots. You can pretty much, this shot is not too different from the Game & Watch trailer though, so, yep. And here we are, we have a man on a raft, not too much new stuff, but that doesn't appear to be Link, so who knows, perhaps you'll get to see other NPCs traveling around, like, through various random sections of the land, as opposed to just in, settlements. Next up, you can see Link here. That is it has to be the Deku Tree. You can see its mouth moving. And you can see, Korok's walking around it, and Link's there, which is all good, but like, yeah, just up the top of the screen, you can kind of see its mouth just moving. Which is something really exciting to see. I'm so glad to see the original Deku Tree coming back, and you can see he has voice acting as well. The look on your face tells me that you have no recollection of me, however. So yeah, which is interesting. Perhaps this really could be some form of sequel to Ocarina of Time, like a lot of people have perhaps suggested. So if this was to be the case, I believe a very likely candidate for this game is, as some people have suggested before, that this game is in the Downfall timeline. Looking at footage like this, the look on your face tells me that you have no recollection of me, however, could mean that this game happens 100 years after Link is killed at the end of Ocarina of Time. That would make sense because it would give the young Deku Tree sprout 100 years to grow, and all that kind of stuff. And the Kokiri no longer needed to be Kokiri, so they became Koroks and stuff like that. I mean, can't really be certain, but there you can kind of see the Master Sword. It's in its stone pedestal, but other than that, there's not really a lot there. And you can see, Guardians here trying their best to power up, but also you can kind of see getting corrupted. You can see it's glowing blue, but also trying to glow pink, and it's trying to turn itself into... No. And here is the flower. The flower, which a lot of people accept and understand, has a very strong connection with the Master Sword. So, who knows? And the Great Deku Tree thinks that we are now ready to hear what happened 100 years ago. So, yeah, time travel. I'm really hoping it's time travel. And here we are. It's zooming out. Great Plateau, I'm assuming. And, like, look at this long, wide shot here. If I was to go through... Let me just kind of go through frame by frame and see what we can see. So there, we kind of saw that area before. That appears to be a similar area to where... And up there, this is the Great Plateau. You can kind of see up the top there, there's the Temple of Time to the right. There's another Resurrection Tower, or Tower of Resurrection, or whatever they call it, in the background there. Castle zooms out. There's a flag here, which is kind of interesting. I mean, but... I think I've linked it before, but I quite like Zoltic's old theory about how this is probably Castletown from Ocarina of Time, and if I can find that video again, I'm going to link it in the description, but that would make sense why the flags and stuff are around here. And there's something in the sky here. We don't know what it is because it doesn't really tell us what it is, it just shows that there's a shadow of it. So who knows, perhaps it could be some form of, like, flying object. And there's a shrine down there. But yeah, other than that, then it kind of zooms out. There's a mountain, you butte mates. And here we are. This is what we saw on Death Mountain, and what we've been seeing on Death Mountain all this time. It is glowing pink, and it is corrupted by Ganon, but its claws are glowing orange with fire. This is a new type of Guardian. We've been getting a bunch of new Guardian designs recently, but it appears that this kind of Guardian is almost a Giga Guardian. Some kind of, Guardian of Death Mountain. Perhaps Ganon knew that was trying to keep the Gorons in, or perhaps keep people out from the Gorons. Who knows? And here we are, we have Link and Zelda in her white dress. I'm going to move on, because we'll see a lot of Zelda soon. And here we are. This is some form of tower. I don't know which dungeon this is, but I'm assuming this is one of what, I've heard people say, the 4 main dungeons, and also there's some good evidence to support that soon, so I'm going to be making a theory on that as well. But here we are. You can see it's pink, Ganon corrupted, spinning. I don't know. The only real spinning like this area I can kind of remember was from, like, Minish Cap, but who knows? With the barrel. Anyway, move out. Here we have Zelda bathing. But I don't know. Yeah, I know that I've heard other people on YouTube saying this as well, but I don't really believe it's a bath, but more like some kind of ritual. And now Link is running. This is a really interesting shot, because Link is actually dirty. And, he's all scuffed up. He's got, black marks all over his face and shirt. So I don't know if this pretty much just confirms there's going to be cutscenes and stuff like that. Like animated, CG, not CG, but like animated cutscenes. If there are cutscenes, this would make a lot of sense as to why this would happen, because then we'd be seeing, it could make sense for them to have already pre-animated Link to be all dirty like this. But if this is actually not a or if cutscenes aren't really a massive thing and it's more playthrough style, kind of like, I don't know, Half-Life or something, then this would be really interesting to see if Link can actually get dirty in this game. And here we are, we have the first enemy, which this is what I believe should be one of the temple dungeons. As to why, I will make a video on that, not too long, but you can see his feet are different colors. The front one's pink, the back one's blue. I don't know if that's just because of the fog, but hey, he steps down, and yeah, I can honestly say that I'm pretty convinced this is one of the 4 main dungeons bosses. As to why, there will be a theory on that. I will put a card in the top corner right now once I finish making it. And here we are, we have Link talking to Zelda. Once again, I'm not going to talk about Zelda because we see her again soon. And here is a shrine bursting from the ground. And here we are. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it has to really be animated. As much as I wish Link would be able to get all dirty and stuff normally, I don't think so. You can see Zelda's all dirty as well. He's got Zelda's arm, they're running, and she slips out of his hand. And you can see Link opens his hand, reaching out for her. And this is Zelda's face. This is the thing that caused all the screaming at the event I was watching this at. You can kind of see she's got her anime eyes, Hylian ears. It's quite likely to be Zelda. I mean, I don't really know who else it could be. She's got like a Loftwing style crest of the royal family on her shirt. And here we go. This is something new. This is new. This is the destruction of the town. You can kind of recognize this town. You can kind of recognize the buildings, but more importantly, you can see in the bottom corner is the fountain. So this really has to be that same town that we've seen destroyed throughout the Game Awards trailer and now. So that's kind of depressing that we're going to see the whole town in all its glory and then watch it get destroyed. And here we have Zelda voice acting again. Everything I've done up until now, it was all for nothing. So this line of dialogue, it pretty much confirms that that woman we've been hearing all throughout the actual gameplay we've had prior is Zelda, because it's the same voice. You can see the Guardian, it's turned pink, it's destroying stuff, and Zelda doesn't really sound happy, surprisingly. And here's Zelda running. We don't know what she's running from. Perhaps she's running to Link, but we don't really know. It's kind of interesting to see, but running like that. And here we have Link standing with a Gerudo woman. I'm assuming it's a Gerudo because of the darker skin, the desert, the red hair. And you can see in the background there's some kind of monster. I don't know if that's a monster or that's just part of this actual ruins. This whole building is almost shaped similar to a Guardian, but I really am hoping that we don't have to fight a Guardian that big. Also, you can see standing next to Link is that creature pulling his shield beforehand, and next to the Gerudo is a different colored one of them. That's really interesting. And here's Zelda crying. It was one of those really the scenes with just the most feels in the game. And just seeing this scene this scene just got all the Zelda fans excited because you can just watch it and see this game's gonna have a bigger emphasis on just everything. This game's gonna have a much larger emphasis on story, which is something we, really haven't seen before. A massively heavy story, heavy game. Next up, we've got a Bokoblin riding his horse, swinging his sword around, and not really catching up to Link. Though I think he's trying his best, and that's all that counts, right? And here we are, we've got a stone, like some kind of gigantic style child. I don't really know what they're called, I've forgotten. But interestingly, this is actually a similar design to the Moblin we saw before with the horn and everything, so perhaps this is a Style Moblin, I don't know. And here we are, the first look at the Gorons in Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm not going to be saying a lot about it because I've also almost finished writing the script for a theory on all the races in Hyrule, and this Goron is in Breath of the Wild, and this Goron is no exception, so stay tuned for that. I'll put a card up in the corner for that. And here we are, it has to be the Sand Goddess, the temple from Ocarina of Time, the one in the middle of the Gerudo Desert. So that's kind of crazy to see that perhaps we might be getting to revisit some old dungeons. I don't know if it would be revisiting an old dungeon or just, seeing it. I mean, actually, looking at it a bit closer, I don't think it is the same, but at the same time, it's quite interesting to notice something like this. And to have actual statues like this. Next up, of course, we have the Great Fairy. The Great Fairy. Her design is kind of interesting. It's not really too different. It's really different from prior Great Fairies, but at the same time, it's so ridiculously obvious that it is her/him. Probably her. Got the butterfly sylph wings from her, hair. Plus, you can see she's coming out of a fountain. It has to be the fairy, but at the same time, I'm really not sure if I find which variation of the Great Fairy I like more. They're all kind of interesting. And here's Link running across, whatever he ran across, that's it. And here we have a Gerudo. The first look at the Gerudos, really, from the front on, we've seen, they've got the green eyes, the darker skin shade, and the, brown hair, or the red hair, what am I saying? And yeah, it's really, I really do like the design of the Gerudo in this game. They look really interesting. I noticed the, long ears. I can't remember if the Gerudo had longer ears in the prior games. I don't remember them doing so, so perhaps there could be something to do with that. I don't really know. She's holding some kind of circular object. She was with lightning bolts and stuff. She was holding the same thing in the prior scene, but we don't really know what that is yet. Also, one other thing I really like, you can kind of see her, hair blowing, but also like her medallions hanging from her chest, just blowing around in the wind. So that's kind of cool, yeah. And here we have I can only assume to be a Zora. Though it is red, I'm going to be making a theory. I've got a theory on that coming out, the same one I talked about with Gorons, but hey, he's wearing a sash. Next up, we're in a temple. I believe this is the same temple we saw before, the one with the spinning things. So yeah, this is going to be quite exciting to have a look at. And here we have a queen. I mean, I'm assuming to be the queen or princess of the Zoras. While in Ocarina of Time, the, rulers of the Zoras didn't really look too different. One can note that in Twilight Princess, Queen Rutella and Prince Rallis, I think his name was, they had a quite different skin shade. Rutella was red, while Rallis was more of a purple, so, hey, perhaps that could be them. And here we have Falco. It's pretty much, I think it might even be exactly the same shot, almost, from the other trailer. So here, yeah. And here we have a big shark-headed Zora, giving Link a big handshake, while in the background we've got a little green Zora man. So, hey, fun. In the background there you can kind of see a, what appears to be the entrance to Zora's domain. Perhaps it could be that thing from the opening shot before, we saw at the beginning, And in the background there, like towards the very right of the screen, I don't know what that is. It's interestingly shaped, but perhaps that could be like the newest Lord Jabu Jabu, or something like that, who knows. And here we have Zelda screaming no. Link's there too with the rusty Master Sword, and Zelda is, though, from the white dress, it's interesting. I don't know, we haven't quite seen why she wears a white dress yet, but perhaps it could have something to do with Hylia. We don't really know yet, but, perhaps that's the whole purification or the cleansing ritual we kind of saw with the bathing before. Perhaps that could have something to do with channeling Hylia. I don't know, she got the light power, which is kind of cool, and Link's over there before, and there's Zelda. And there's this line, "You must save her, my daughter." Which, it's a different voice from the Great Deku Tree, as far as I can tell, as well as obviously it's not Impa or Zelda. So one can surmise this is a new person, and the likely candidate is the King of Hyrule himself. While it's not really likely it's going to be Daphne's, or the King of Red Lions, as most people know him, it's still quite likely to be the king, so perhaps asking Link to save Zelda. And also, you can see the castle in the background, not really looking quite as destroyed as it does later. And Link's here, scars in his face, scuffed up, destroyed. Getting up, look at him, he's got what almost looks like burn marks in his arm. And there's Zelda in the background, in that white dress, but also looking all destroyed. Oh, not, that's a bad word, but, all scuffed up, damaged, almost hurt. And yep, you can see I used the Japanese trailer because it had subtitles for the voices. Okay, finally, you can kind of see Zelda here. You can see on her white dress, it's got the Triforce logo, as well as her armlets do too. And she's here, and Zelda, in that last couple frames there, you can kind of see that has to be the Great Deku Tree. So Zelda appears to also go meet the Great Deku Tree. Yeah. And then the trailer kind of just waits for a bit with the black screen and ends off with the first shots we've seen ever from the trailer. Open your eyes. And Link opens his eyes, and that's the end. Finally, when I say the end, we got the release date as well, which is March 3rd. This game is a release. It is a launch title, though I'm assuming most of you probably already know that by now. Anyway, that's pretty much my entire trailer analysis. So, I really hope that this was useful to you. If it was, don't forget to leave the video a comment, or a like, or a share even. I don't know, also, it's got, don't forget to subscribe to me for some more video game music themed videos from the Gamer Music.